What is up, everybody? Sean Sheehan back here with another edition of the Sheehan Show for Sherdog.com. And Big Boy MMA returns to the world for the first time in 2022 as the middleweight championship of the UFC is on the line in the main event of UFC 271 as Israel Adesanya takes on Robert Whittaker for the second time. And it's a really, really fun card. I want to touch on maybe two or three of the fights here, but mainly talk about the main event. I know the lads over on the Chillin' and Duffy show go through it in depth and have a lot of talk about the whole card and really get into it. So if you haven't checked that out yet, I'm sure it'll be out before this, or it'll be out later in the week, if not. Please have a look at that on the Sherdog YouTube, and it's up on our Spotify as well. But I want to kind of give you my flavour on it and my kind of thoughts on some of the fights here, and even just to run you through some of the undercard fights quickly from my notes here, which I have in front of me. I'm actually looking forward to even seeing William Knight returning. You know, his last performance was absolutely crazy. I'm a fan of Carlos Ulberg. I think, you know, he's still young in his career. He's only 3-1. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. You know, there's a few undefeated fighters on the card. AJ Dobson is on the card. Mike Mathena is on the card as well. So whenever you see undefeated fighters, it's interesting to see where they go as well. The 125-pound title fight, 125-pound fight between Matt Schnell and Alex Perez is also an important fight for that division. Like, we know what Alex Perez kind of is. He's been around for a good while now. I think fighting in the prime of his game, he's 30 fights deep into his career. Schnell a little bit less with just over 20. And I think Perez is a very, very good fighter. I'd probably pick him to win this fight. We'll talk more maybe about that on the betting show if that's one of my picks. But Matt Schnell, I've said this for a while now. But to me, Matt Schnell is a guy who, you know, if you're a long-term fan of MMA, you probably know him from the Caged show on, was it MTV? It used to be, you know, Danger and that as well. So he's been around for a long time. It's not as if, you know, he's some new guy into MMA, and you could judge that by the amount of fights he has as well, I'm sure. But I feel like some people, right, you look at Khamzat. He gets to the very top at the very start. He looks like a world-class fighter right now. You could even say the same for some other people. Like, say, you know, a lot of the guys, I think they come through Cage Warriors look that way as well, look really, really top fighters. And like, not everyone gets to the very top, and not everyone fails. But when you kind of look like you're going to be the best fighter you can be right now and add bits to it all the time, but you're already like a top solid fighter. I feel like Schnell is more of a guy who has been a good fighter, and then he adds a good bit, but never takes like a massive jump. Like, say, if you look at someone like, Khamzat, he comes into the UFC and it's a massive jump, and then he, wins by a ground and pound a few times, but then he gets the big knockout and it's another massive jump. I feel like Schnell has taken, 20 small jumps to make him a very, very good fighter. And I feel like if he makes a few more, he could be a top fighter, because I think he's so well-rounded. I think his hands are good. His ground game is improving all the time, and everything is improving all the time. And I really like him. Like, I'm not going to break that down that fight totally. I'll leave that to the other lads, but I always like to mention that with Schnell. I honestly think he is a guy who a few years ago might have like dreamt of getting into the UFC, dreamt of having a few fights in the UFC, dreamt of getting ranked in the UFC. Now I think he's probably dreaming of fighting for a title and maybe even winning it. And now, would I pick him to win a title in the next couple of years? Probably not. But would I pick him at some stage to fight for a title? I think I probably would. I rate Matt Schnell, and I believe in his ability, and I believe in someone who can improve consistently to keep improving consistently. So yeah, I'm a fan of Matt Schnell, and I think win or lose here, he's the type of fighter I like, because I try to knock everything here. He's the type of fighter I like to watch and keep an eye on, and wish the best for. And I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes here. Another massive prospect is Casey O'Neill. She's 8-0 now, and she's fighting Roxanne Modaffei. And in what is allegedly Roxy's retirement fight, for more than Roxy first, she's been a great fighter down through the years. I would say has probably overachieved in her career, even though, maybe she, for long periods, maybe she was more concentrated on other things, or when, the division obviously came into the UFC, it's a lot easier to concentrate on it then, so maybe not through a fault of her own, but I think she has... It came a little bit late in terms of age for her, but she's still done great things, fought, up at the very, very top of the world, and has had a stellar career. So, maybe she is one of the people who actually retires and we won't see back again. But, she does a lot of training and a lot of preparations. I believe it's in with John Wood's gym anyway, isn't it? Where I know she trains with the ex-Joanne Calderwood, who's now Joanne Wood. It's great for Roxy to have her final fight, and she's been a great servant to the sport, but she wasn't given an easy one against Casey O'Neill. I think we all saw what she did to Antonina Shevchenko last time out as well. She beat Shayna Dobson and a few more, as well. She is, if you're talking about top prospects in that division, at 125 pounds, you can't look past her. And this is an interesting one as well, because maybe this has nothing got to do with the card this weekend, but I gotta say it anyway, because I think it's an important thing to say. Like, sometimes we look at champions in divisions, and the champion in her division is Valentina Shevchenko, right? And her probably more than any champion ever, and think, well, that person will never be beaten. Valentina Shevchenko is unbeatable. There's no one coming close, or no one can beat her. People said the same about Anderson Silva. They said the same about Amanda Nunes. They probably said the same about every champion ever. And you know what? Apart from the select 2 or 3, all of them have been beaten. And is Casey O'Neill going to be that person? Maybe. Yeah, maybe she is. Because someone will be. And why not her? She is one of the top prospects in the world. Look, would she beat Valentina Shevchenko today? If they fought, would I pick her? Absolutely not. No. But in a couple of years, if she keeps making improvements, and Valentina Shevchenko maybe gets a little bit older, but MMA is improving all the time. It's not out of the realms of possibilities that someone emerges and becomes better than what we have at the moment. In fact, it's almost certain that will happen, because it's happened in every other division ever in MMA all the time. You could almost go through it and say every champion is better than the past one. You nearly could do that, especially from like the early days up until the modern realm of MMA. So Casey O'Neill is the next level of 125ers at the moment, and you have to be watching her this weekend. Those are kind of my highlights from the undercard. The main card, I absolutely love the fight between Nasrat Haqparast and Bobby Green. This to me is, when you get a lightweight fight on a card, and it's someone who is probably, maybe touching the top 15, maybe not, but and it's another guy who's probably in the same position, it's going to be good, because you'd get that in another division like middleweight, and it's, you almost, not that you'd guarantee a rubbish fight, but you're not going to guarantee a great fight. I think in lightweight, you almost do guarantee a great fight. And this one, I think it's going to be 3 rounds of really good technical striking with a lot of power shots landed, a lot of leg kicks, maybe a few takedowns even thrown in there, and a battle of wills here at times, because Bobby Green is a guy who's at times he can take a lot of shots, although he doesn't. I think he's actually defensively very good, but when he's kind of maybe outpowered by a guy, I think Haqparast will be a little bit stronger, and he might be able to like shove him inside, maybe push him against the fence. He's not going to give up. Like, Bobby Green is not going to like lay down to pressure. He's not going to be hurt by it in terms of his his fighting spirit, to take a phrase from the judging criteria. And he's going to keep fighting, and he's going to keep throwing that jab, and he's going to keep countering. And Haqparast will do the same. I look, Bobby Green is one of the most technical, best boxers in that division. He's fantastic. But I think Haqparast can strike really well as well. Kicks well over the top, and is strong. I'm really looking forward to it. I've rated Haqparast as a top prospect for a good while, and I don't think he's met maybe a lot of people's expectations, but this is a big fight, and if you beat Bobby Green, you're a good fighter. That's a fact. Sometimes it's harsh in MMA to call fighters a yardstick, but if you beat Bobby Green, that's a yardstick for maybe the rankings. Maybe you're good enough for a top 15, top 10 guy if you can beat Bobby Green, because it's by no means an easy feat, especially the modern day Bobby Green. I think he's improved an awful lot. He's a more serious fighter. And I'm a big fan of Bobby Green. I think he's very, very good, and this is a very, very good fight as well. And in the top three, I suppose, I'm definitely going to touch on here. Derrick Brunson versus Jared Cannonier first. This is an interesting fight. I actually went back on one of my shows last week and I watched Jack Hermanson, who obviously fought against Sean Strickland in the main event. I believe it was UFC Fight Night 200, UFC Vegas 47. And he fought Jared Cannonier. And I watched that fight and it was a very interesting fight, maybe in terms of this one, because, Hermanson, as we saw last Saturday, is a limited fighter in lots of different ways. But he can be dangerous too, especially against someone like Cannonier, who's maybe, he's a good technical striker, but maybe not the kind of safe technical striker, if you want to put it, that Sean Strickland is. And I think what Cannonier did very well in that fight was not panic maybe in some positions, right? And you'll need that against Derrick Brunson. I really think you'll need that against Derrick Brunson. And also what he did in that fight was accuracy towards the end and his ability to get the finish. I think he'll need that against Derrick Brunson as well, because Brunson, look, he used to be a berserker. He'd come right at you, flying at you. Everyone remembers, the Adesanya fight. But he's not like that anymore as much. He is more of a methodical fighter, working in Sanford MMA under Henry Hooft. I think Trevor Whitman is the best coach in the world, to be honest. But I think the guys at Sanford MMA, Greg Jones, Henry Hooft, are running his gym and running him a very, very close second. Because those guys, a fighter comes out of there now, and they're very good. Our own Ian Gary's over there now, and he probably couldn't be in the best place in the world. I know that Team KF did a great job with him as well, but we that is a story long told now. But it's a great place to be. It is a really great place to be, and I think what they have done to Derrick Brunson is miraculous and really shows how great he can be. Like OSP is another guy I always thought and I actually think more of OSP maybe than Derrick Brunson in terms of like what he could be. I'd love to see him go to Sanford MMA and learn how to jab, and he'd be a great fighter. Derrick Brunson could do bits of everything. But I think to put it all together and do it in, as I said, a more methodical way, while not being boring, while not holding back either, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And I think, I think that actually might benefit Cannonier a little bit in terms of the fight overall. I think if Brunson puts a little bit of that madness, maybe after winning a technical battle, it could really be money for him here. I haven't looked at the odds or anything yet. As I said, I'll have the betting show and I look more at that then, but I find it hard to pick this. I would say if I was to guess, I would say Cannonier is a favourite, but I'd probably pick Brunson. So I could it could be the opposite way around, but before the betting show comes. But with the lackluster display from Sean Strickland and Jack Hermanson and that average fight at the weekend, with the main event, which I'll talk about here in a minute coming up, this is a massive fight for Brunson and Cannonier. The winner of this could absolutely be fighting for the belt. So a big win here, a big performance here, and it'll be a big moment for whoever wins it. Then the co-main event, Derrick Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa. And look, you could say the same here. Now, I'm not going to go full UFC or anything here and say, the winner of this is fighting for the title, but there could be. Like if you look at it. What's John Jones doing? He's kind of been not fighting for the last 2 or 3 years. Stipe Miocic kind of fights whenever he wants. I have great respect for especially Stipe, but for both of them. But like you can't rely on them to be fighting often, So and you can rely on the UFC to like make an interim title fight. You can rely on to put someone else in for a title. Like Francis looks like he's going to be out for a while with his injuries. But even if he does come back and none of the other two maybe want to fight him, or John Jones is not coming back, they're going to have to find someone. And look, Derrick Lewis is a guy they love putting into title fights and love putting into big main events. If he wins here, we've no business writing off Derrick Lewis. He's going to be there or thereabouts for a long time. And Tai Tuivasa has turned himself into a fan favourite. I really think Tai Tuivasa is one of the top maybe 3 or 4 stars that have been created during the pandemic era. I think he's the hardest thing in MMA, right, is to get people to know you while being successful. Right, Masvidal got people to know him, and then he started losing. And I think he's probably 1 loss away from, maybe 2 losses away from not necessarily obscurity, but back to like no longer being a draw or no longer being on big cards and things like that. To do it the way Tuivasa's done it now, he hasn't had maybe the strongest competition or anything like that. Fought some good people, don't get me wrong, but he's come out there, he went, singing Barbie Girl, walking out to it, knocking lads' spark out, doing shoeies off the top of the cage. People love that. It's hilarious, drinking the hot sauce by accident and all of that. It's been wild. It's been a ride with Tai Tuivasa, and that helps. That really helps when you're looking towards getting towards the top and towards people knowing you. And do you know what also helps? Sparking Derrick Lewis will help very, very much. Because, look, as I said, we can't rule Derrick Lewis out of being towards the top. We can't just forget about him because he's had a few shots or whatever. But we also can't deny that he is one of the top heavyweights in the world. Maybe he's not the top, or maybe he's not, one of the best heavyweights in terms of the quality of the other 3 or 4 or 5 lads up there. But he is after that, it's Derrick Lewis. He's really the guy after it. And if you beat him, it makes a difference. I talked about Bobby Green maybe being 14, 15, 16 in the world. Well, Derrick Lewis is probably 3, 4, 5 in the world if you beat him. You prove that's what you are. And is Tai Tuivasa that? I don't know. I honestly, look, the thing about both of these guys is, right, everyone goes in there and tries to take both of them down. Tries to put both of them on their back, tries to put them on their backside more specifically, maybe even get on top of them, or conversely, they do like a Cyril Gane did and circle around and circle away from him and don't get hit by the big power. That's what opponents do to both of them. Well, now they're both fighting someone who wants to do the same thing they want to do. That to me, and as I said, I'll mention the betting show again, but first round knockout, if it's a good price on this for either guy, is probably what I'm going to be looking at, or maybe the under in 2.5 rounds or something like that. Because this one is going to be hell for leather early. There's going to be 2 lads here swinging punches until someone gets knocked out. And, not Rock'em Sock'em robots necessarily, but they're going to be trying to pick in big shots. They're going to be trying to land in big shots. They're going to be trying to counter each other's big shots. And one of them is going to go to sleep. Look, we've seen it before, Derrick Lewis and Francis Ngannou and other ones as well, but I think someone is getting put away here. And I like Derrick Lewis an awful lot. Like, I think he's improved so much over the years. If anyone's improved as much as Derrick Lewis in the UFC in the last few years, I don't think I've seen him, to be honest. I think I didn't rate Derrick Lewis. I used to say bad things about him and everything like that, and talk about his ability, and I don't think I was necessarily wrong at the time, honestly. But now I wouldn't say those things because he has improved so much. He's had such an upturn in his career, in his ability. I have a lot of respect for it. But Tai Tuivasa has a lot of ability on the feet as well. He's gone and he's worked with AK and Daniel Cormier and those guys, and his wrestling has evidently improved an awful lot as well. But on the feet, Tai Tuivasa is not ranked as highly as Derrick Lewis, or maybe not rated as highly as Derrick Lewis. But if you're to put him striker versus striker, you couldn't say Tai Tuivasa is that far in terms of a good striker from Derrick Lewis. So if he can get in there, maybe turn it into a more of a technical matchup, not catch a Derrick Lewis shot when he's kind of waiting on the outside and waiting for the opportunity, I think Tai Tuivasa could win that. It's a very, very, very intriguing styles matchup, very, very intriguing fight, and I think it'll be a really, really, really fun one. And you know what? I think the main event will be exactly the same. I'm really excited for this rematch. Since the first fight happened, I kind of wanted to see this rematch. And during the week on other shows and other things, I'll talk probably more about the first fight and go back on it. And I'm sure everyone else here as well on Sherdog will be talking about that. But I want to talk specifically about this fight and maybe what I think the tactics will be and how they will change maybe and how both guys fight. So, look, we know how Adesanya fights. We've seen him fight down through the years. He's this kind of I hate the phrase that people used to use a while back, but he's kind of like this neo-striking where he throws with a lot of variety, a lot of intelligence, and puts a lot of stuff out there to see what comes back, to see what goes back, if you want to put it that way. A playbook fighter, I might even call him like that. He's a guy who understands movement really, really well, not only his own, but his opponent's as well. He understands what to throw to make someone else throw something, to have the ability to throw his own shot back. So he's not a counter striker. I think he is an sometimes I call people offensive counter strikers. I think he is like an offensive I don't know how you put it, look, but he's an offensive fighter that draws out a counter to counter that counter. Like, he's like a step ahead of a lot of, sometimes you see kind of very good people are cutting off the cage and then they'll wait and they'll try to draw a shot out from you and you hit them. He actually throws shots and throws lots of fakes and different things to draw that shot out to hit you. I think he's like, there's like one extra step in Adesanya for a lot of different ways. The people who can maybe explain and talk about that better than me. I know Luke Thomas has done many great breakdowns about him, and sure Dan Hardy and others as well. But a really, really great striker and a guy who has taken the sport to the next level in that realm in lots of different ways. And, his takedown defense, I always talk about takedown defense against the cage. I use the Adesanya model all the time. If you see great takedown defense, you see what Adesanya does. It's the overhook on one side and the wrist control on the other side. That is the best way. Get your back against the cage, overhook on one side, wrist control the other side, and turn. He does it all the time. We talked about the Derrick Brunson fight earlier on. Since that fight and since earlier fights, I think was it Mike Wilkinson who took him down a few times. He has really, really made that a massive part of his game and made that something that has really turned him into an effective striker, but from an effective striker into an effective striker who can win at the very, very top level. And he needed that, and he's really, really perfected it. So he's fantastic at that. Robert Whittaker, on the other hand, I described him earlier on in the week as a vaccine, and I won't get into that again. But why I kind of said that was, we're told, whether you believe it or not, I do now, so don't call me an anti-vaxxer or not. I have all my 3 shots, so don't be giving it out to me. But we're told that you get it, right? You get this vaccine, and then it stops you from getting, the worst of the rest of it. We'll put it like that, and we'll leave it at that. Robert Whittaker throws shots first to stop the worst of it from everyone else coming back, right? He tries to break your rhythm. He tries to break you. He tries to stop you before you start. And that's why I've compared him to a vaccine. I don't know whether it's a good comparison or not, but I give you an example. Like, he fights Yoel Romero for 10 rounds and doesn't get knocked out. Like, who fights Yoel Romero for 10 rounds and doesn't get knocked out? Not many people. And Robert Whittaker did exactly that. And the reason he does that, right, is if you're Yoel Romero, what you are is a rhythm fighter. You're up in your hand, boom, 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 and then flying knee, boom, 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 right hand, boom, 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 left hand. And that boom, boom, boom might go on for 3.5 minutes the way Yoel Romero fights. But what Robert Whittaker was doing was he was going boom, 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 and then Robert Whittaker would strike before the flying knee would come. He'd go boom, boom, boom. Robert Whittaker would strike before the right hand came. Boom, boom, boom. He'd strike before the left hand came. And that's what he did every single time. Broke your rhythm, broke your ability to throw what you want to throw. He just breaks your spirit. He breaks your tactics. Now, against Adesanya, the problem with that is, as I talked about, like that kind of neo kickboxing, is that his setups, his ability is a lot less agricultural than someone like Yoel Romero. Not to take anything away from Yoel Romero, it's been very, very effective for him over the years. But Adesanya is setting things up at all times. He's doing things at all times. Like, to be first before Adesanya, you have to be first for every second of 25 minutes, and that's very, very hard. So I think Robert Whittaker's metagame is going to have to change to beat Israel Adesanya. I don't think he's just going to be able to be first every time and beat Adesanya, because it's going to be too tough. Like, he'll be first sometimes, Adesanya will be first sometimes, and Adesanya will be third as well, if you want to put it that way, right? And I don't think that'll be enough. I think he needs to change things up, right? I think he needs... Look, there's 2 things I think he needs here, right? I think he needs to look, and it's very simple to say this, and this is probably the 15 to 20% of the game plan that I want to talk about, but you have to mention it. You have to mention what Jan Blachowicz did against Adesanya. What I think he did is he kind of slowed Adesanya's rhythm, whereas Robert Whittaker usually would be trying to quicken it. But that side of it I don't think will work with Robert Whittaker. I don't think he's as sophisticated a striker as Jan Blachowicz to go up against someone who's as sophisticated a striker as Israel Adesanya. But what he did do was he got takedowns, and he timed them very well, and he got takedowns at the right time. Robert Whittaker, sometimes we forget, this guy qualified to be on the Commonwealth wrestling team. This guy can wrestle. He's not just a striker. He's not just a go-forward pressure fighter. He can wrestle too, and he needs to throw in takedowns. Now, we saw Hermanson last weekend, and he threw in a couple of takedowns, and he gave him up when he didn't get him. Whittaker can't do that. He can't just give up on him. Even if he doesn't get... Look, if he does get him, absolutely keep going for win 40, or win 50-45, no problem, if he can do that. But if you get one... and then you get stopped twice, go for another one, and then go for another one, and then go for another one. You have to keep throwing in things. If only to vary your striking, if only to vary your game, if only to keep keep Adesanya thinking about things. You have to do that. So I really think that's a big part of the game that Robert Whittaker needs here. But the even bigger part of the game I think he needs... I mentioned the word agricultural earlier on. It's a word I use a lot for MMA, but I think he needs a more agricultural game plan here. I think he needs to go forward and bully Adesanya and go head first. If it takes a few shots, all well and good. Push him against that cage. Dirty boxing. On my podcast in Severe MMA, Graham said Colby Covington. A bit of that wouldn't hurt. I would say more Ken Velasquez. Ken Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos. Push him against, this is wrong, but headbutt him. Put your head in there, get your head against his, and throw dirty boxing against it. Pressure him, cut him open inside, make it dirty and nasty and rotten with, little elbows inside. You're going to take loads of shots to do that, and you're going to get hurt probably doing that. But you want to be the middleweight champion of the world against a guy who is very, very, very good. I think that's the sacrifice you have to make. And it's funny because Paul Felder on the commentary the last day kind of, he talked about that. He said it, and himself and Bisping were both there, two perfect guys. Look what Bisping had to go through to beat Anderson Silva. Look, he was burst open. He was literally knocked out. He had to go through everything. Paul Felder throughout his whole career had to go through so much to achieve what he achieved. Some fighters just have to do that. Some fighters don't. Adesanya is probably one of them in terms of you don't always have to bleed. You don't always have to go through. No, he did against Gastelum, I suppose, and others as well. But Robert Whittaker, to win this fight, he's going to have to bleed. He's going to have to put himself in a rough, raw situation, and he's going to have unbelievable cardio and keep it going for 25 minutes or until Israel Adesanya says no mas. That's what he's going to have to do. Now, if he can't do that, I think Adesanya will win. That's the fight I think it'll be. I think Adesanya will pick him apart in different realms. I think the longer the fight goes as well, if Adesanya is winning rounds like that, picking him apart, I think he'll get into more of a flow, and I think he'll probably win those rounds clearer. So, Whittaker has a lot of work to do, but I'm looking forward to seeing if he can do it. This is a fantastic, fascinating fight for me. I thought in the co-main event there was a clash of similar styles. This is a clash of very, very different styles, but I'm looking forward to both. I'm looking forward to this a lot more than most fights. I think this is fantastic. Now, the middleweight division, I'm not the biggest fan of it in the world. After this, we can talk about that maybe next week. I don't think it is... I don't think there is as much quality there maybe as in other divisions, but nevertheless, the quality at the very top is there, and these are two top quality fighters on a top quality card, and I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing it on late on Saturday night here in the beautiful home of the All-Ireland champions Limerick. Right, everyone, thank you very much for listening and watching. If you're listening, you can go over and watch this. It's on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go over and listen on Spotify. Search Sherdog. It'll come up. I think it's Sherdog Radio Network, Sherdog Podcast. You'll be able to listen to this and all the other wonderful podcasts that are out on Sherdog every week over on Spotify. So please click subscribe. Click the like button. If you have any questions or anything you want to say, comment section down below, let me know. I always check them. I always give a few replies in there, so let me know what you're thinking. If there's any other videos or anything you want, I'm always mad up for doing all of them. Alright, I'll leave it there. My name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and I'll see you all next time.